We've all heard the phrases, there's no place like home. Home sweet home. Home is where the heart is, and I can't wait to get home. Well, welcome to this home, America's home front. Hi, we're with Jenny Jett, who is a realtor from Berkshire Hathaway. Out in Jacksonville, Florida, we're in a beautiful subdivision called Avondale, or community really. Thanks for being with us.
I'm glad to be here.
I want to know a little bit about you before we get into talking about the real estate market as a whole. Tell me who you are, how you got into real estate, and what your accomplishments are.
I did start, even as a teenager, my father renovated 200-year-old homes up in the New England area.
Fun.
So that was my summer job. So it was great to see those renovations take place and just to watch real estate change over time.
Interesting. At what point did you become an agent?
Several years ago, and I will tell you, with this company in this huge town, you learn something new every day, whether you've been in the business for 1 year or 30.
I can only imagine, and the market is ever changing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But before we talk about the market, I want to know what it's like to live a life where you get to walk into houses every day. How fun is that?
You know, there are some benefits to that, and you watch people's eyes and they either light up or they go, oh my gosh, why did they put that ornament there? And then you have to kind of redirect and say, the house,
right.
Not their decor. You don't get to take that with you. So
right.
it's wonderful.
So there is a lot of character when it comes to the different communities. I totally understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And speaking about the entire nation and real estate, what is the market like right now?
You know, I don't have definitive statistics for 2017, but I can say that in 2016, throughout the year, inventory was very low, and yet we saw the highest number of sales since 2006.
Good news.
Not the highest values, but the highest number of sales, and that was almost 28,000, and that was over the year prior. So it says something about the buyer pool here being very strong and buying. So
that's something that anybody that's watching this program right now can take to heart. What kind of community do I live in? What's happening around me? Why are people driven to buy or sell? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
For example, I mean, when I think about the shift that's gone on in the last 3 years, I mean, in 2014, whether it was a home buyer or an investor, prices increased modestly, but you could still find those deals, whether they were foreclosure or non-foreclosure. 2015, values saw increases of 6 to 14%, and really that had a tribute to what people were willing to sell for. We watched in 2016 inventory going down more and the buyer still being there. It turned into a competition, multiple offers being made, and in fact in March of 2016, 12.3% of home sales were over asking price.
Wow. So you could probably assess from that the market has shifted favorably.
Yep, it's a seller's market, has been at least since 2015. And we've got, for every one seller, there's probably at least 5 buyers. And these are not looky-loos. These are the proverbial ready, willing, and able buyers. And every time something comes out on the market, they all jump to it. So it's a great time to sell.
It's a great time to be a real estate agent.
Yeah, yes it is. Yes it is. So, lots of people to help.
Right. Sure. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. What kind of advice do you have for someone that is deciding to go out and purchase a home? Maybe it's their first time, or maybe it's been a long time since they've entered into the purchasing world. What would you say to them?
Well, for a seasoned buyer, you know, they think they're coming in and they've got this experience. They do, but to bring previous buyer experience into the present day market may not necessarily benefit them. A lot has changed even in the last 2 years. for new buyers, there is that fear to pull the trigger, very justifiably.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they do their research, but they really should entrust a realtor to help them through that process. They are not paying the commission, so in most situations, so it behooves them to bring someone on that would represent them and support them, and really prioritize not just looking at houses, but getting their funding under their belt.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about what those changes are, how it affects the average buyer, and what they should specifically.
Well, okay, and that
of.
kind of ties in with, like, the resources. I feel there have been a lot of changes since the catastrophe of 2006. Lots of people had different names for what took place a decade ago with the housing market.
Yeah.
That is not where we are right now. We have savvy buyers right now. They're very careful. They do their research. Changes are that there's a lot more resources via the internet, but they may not always be accurate. People feel like it's a word because it's on the internet, and that is not the case. We've had changes to the residential contract. I mean, that even real estate agents had to go and have training on to make sure that they were aware of what changes and what that meant for the buyer and seller. And even in the lending world, which I can't speak in detail, but I know they've gone through extensive changes to what they are required to do. So lots of things.
Yeah. So we'll have the lender
We'll
side
let them
of it up next.
happily
Yes,
let
yes.
them do that. Yes.
This is probably because we now have a Consumer Finance Protection Bureau in place. And that bureau is watching every detail, making sure for the sake of the buyer that their experience is a successful one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So although there are changes and it's been a little uncomfortable in the process, I think what the attempts are for is to avoid that foreclosure market that we had those years ago. That's what I call it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You said there were a lot of names for what happened.
There were. That's one example.
I guess my term is foreclosure market because my nonprofit does so much in foreclosure prevention counseling. We saw that, but it's very good news that
absolutely.
Business is booming again.
In a different direction, but it absolutely is booming, yes.
Well, let me ask you, what happened to your work when the market was down? What were you doing to occupy and make yourself successful so that you could turn back around again?
I think one thing that I was listening to NPR and one time, and I was listening to the gentleman say that, for example, realtors, they don't care if you don't get more money for your house. It's it's just a paycheck. And I thought, wow, that is completely inaccurate. During any time, up or down, our clients, whether they're active clients or past clients, that is our bread and butter. We aren't looking for a one-time client. We want to have them long-term. So I'll go out there and I'll go knock on doors, and I will go and meet with my past clients and hear who they know that might have a need one way or the other, whether it's buying or selling.
Generally speaking, you're vouching for the world of real estate, and that agents as a whole have a heart. It's not all about the bottom line and that check at closing.
I will say that I have heard stories about people that have that, and there is a difference between realtors. There are transactional realtors, and there are single agent realtors.
Yeah.
And if it is a transaction realtor, then they are focusing on the transaction, and it may feel like that sometimes.
Sure.
But when it's a single agent, it's obedience and confidentiality, the extreme in customer service, and we work for them, not the transaction, and that's a big difference.
Absolutely.
And I wish I knew that when I was buying my first house.
Well, I think you're helping a whole lot of people right now.
I hope
so. Let's talk about these people that might need a little bit of help. Do you have any other advice on what they should be mindful of as they're going through the process or as they're selecting that right real estate agent?
Well, especially when they're, in fact, like for me, and I know everyone, approaches their business differently. I feel that it's important to have that a relationship that is comfortable. In fact, there have been circumstances where it just was a better fit, just based on a personality style. You need to have that personality style that works because you are going to be trusting in them.
Sure.
and they in you. So as cliche as it sounds, trust is the very first thing that we start with.
Yeah.
Got to have that. Single agent, I work for them, so absolutely we are thick as thieves for a very long time. And what comes to pass, especially with buyers, is I end up becoming friends with them.
It's great.
And seeing them afterwards. So,
Absolutely.
I'll say that interviewing them, finding out about their company, finding out what their resources are. We have resources that are not accessible to the public. We have the strength of our entire agency to pull resources from. Our broker is non-competing, so they are there to support us solely.
Right.
In my situation, all of my offices are under one umbrella, so I can go to any office and service my clients anywhere, what is convenient for them. If they're going to be using other resources as well, again, 90% of everybody starts with the internet, and that's great.
Sure.
It's easy,
Basic
it's accessible,
education.
right?
Sure.
But it's for basic research. You're never going to have more accurate information than you would be getting from your realtor.
Okay. Well, that's really excellent encouragement. So thank you for that. Any other encouraging words, or just stay positive?
I'll tell you, yes, there will be more homes for sale. There will be more homes for sale.
Yes.
And I would say, as you go through that process, just have a little faith.
Absolutely.
In your lender,
Great
in your realtor. They are
encouragement.
putting in their time and energy for you, and they want you to succeed and have a positive experience because they want you back. So have a little faith.
Right. Don't be anxious. If this one doesn't
let them
go
take
through, there's another one that's better. It
That's right.
actually can be better than the one they
right.
think they have to have. Thank you. This is a beautiful area, Avondale in Jacksonville, Florida. And Ginny Jett, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your time.
Thank you very much.
I think it was a wealth of information, and a lot of people can gain from that. And thank you for being with us. I've heard it said, if you know better, you do better. Well, I've also heard it said, my people perish for lack of knowledge. The Word of God says, get knowledge, for it is your life. Get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. And that's what America's Homefront is here to do for you. Watch us for more wisdom, knowledge, motivation, and understanding. We're with Robert Smith from Wells Fargo Bank out of Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for coming all the way from Atlanta to sunny Florida to be with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are in the Avondale community in Jacksonville, Florida, and a wonderful real estate agent opened up a beautiful home so that we could sit and chat today. And perfect setting to talk about the housing market.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us what your experience is from the lender's perspective on what's going on with the housing market since the foreclosure crisis?
After the crisis, which was obviously, unprecedented, something that we've kind of never seen before in this country.
Very true.
We've been working hard with agencies such as yours to kind of, help communities and homeowners bounce back from that. So what we're seeing is a shift in foreclosures more to home purchase. And that shift is taking place, nationwide, and that's kind of the main shift that we're seeing.
How do you know what is Wells Fargo doing on the ground to make that shift happen? How do you know it's actually taking place?
We do partner with HUD-approved nonprofit housing agencies, and they keep their ear to the street and ear to the ground. They're deeply vested in communities, and we leverage that integrity in that relationship in a lot of ways. So we partner with those agencies nationwide to kind of see what's going on and find ways to support them. So then we'll work with them and understand, what they're seeing, and then figure out which way we can best support that community by working with those nonprofit agencies. So when we're with them, they'll let us know what's going on, and then we'll in turn, support them in whatever initiative that we can.
That speaks to the consumer in that to develop a successful banking relationship, it's nice to know that their local bank is working with the consumer and with agencies that advocate for the consumer for their ultimate success. Would you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree. I think that's a perfect marriage, and I would absolutely encourage everyone to, develop a relationship or reach out to your local HUD-approved agency to just learn more information, pre-purchase, post-purchase, how to maintain your home. This is all critical, and I think to the home buying experience and ultimately to continue to stabilize neighborhoods through that education.
Excellent. I'd like for you to talk to the consumer that's watching and give them a little bit more education on how they can be successful in retaining a home if they're facing foreclosure and maybe purchasing a home if they haven't quite embarked upon that adventure.
The first step is getting into a home and getting ready. I think it's being prepared with and understanding what you can afford and what will be suitable for you and your family. And I think, again, that agencies such as yourself will help identify that need and not just say, I went on a website and I was approved for $1 million. I think that it's finding out exactly what would be suitable, again, for to sustain home ownership is the ultimate key, not just to get in the home. And I also think that once you're in the home, there are things to understand that you could gain a perspective from pre-purchase education, and then that would also carry into maintaining that home once you're in the home. So you're going to need to understand about how taxes work, how escrow works, because those things can fluctuate even if you have a fixed rate. And a lot of homeowners and consumers are not prepared for that. And then also, being along the coastal area where your organization is based, there's a certain perspective or a certain opportunity for a disaster to happen. So making sure there's the right coverage, and things like that are also critical. And then if you find yourself, having challenges paying that mortgage or continuing making your mortgage payment, so again, reach out to that agency or the bank directly, your servicer, and say, hey, I'm having some challenges. Here's what's going on. And there are several programs that are out there that can help and assist customers.
And you can parallel that advice across the country. We happen to be in a coastal region, but even in the Midwest, there are particular things that happen to a consumer or in the market that they live in, weather-wise or otherwise, that could affect their decision with regard to buying a house and how to safeguard in those particular situations.
Yes.
What would you say to somebody that is struggling right now? They didn't hear this conversation ahead of time and oops, well, here we are. We're in default. Can't pay the mortgage. Help.
Everyone needs help at some point in their life. So you always want to make sure that you have, and then when there are resources available, we want to leverage those resources. So what I would definitely say is because you don't see foreclosure on the top of everyone's list on everyone's list on the nightly news or whatever publication you get your news from, it's still happening. The recovery is vastly unbalanced throughout the country, and there are still a lot of folks that are still in need. So we want to assist them. So what I would definitely say is, one, reach out to your servicer and see what options they have available. Then also reach out to a nonprofit HUD-approved housing agency who will advocate for you and still give you that holistic assistance. Because when you reach out to the servicer, they may be able to help you lower your payment or get you back caught up or, had a payment plan to your payment. But the nonprofit agency is going to give you that holistic approach and say, hey, here's where the problem is. Here's how we can fix this so you don't repeat this process again. If you're a homeowner and you're in this situation, do not pay for these services. The majority of the time, these services are completely complimentary. And before you pay a lawyer or anyone like that, I think you should definitely reach out locally and see what resources are available. That's
great information, Robert. And a lot of people don't know about HUD-approved housing counseling agencies because most of them don't have an advertising budget to say, call 1-800 blah, blah, blah now. They just kind of sit there and through the internet and partnerships, people discover what's available. For example, I happened to be at my housing counseling agency earlier today and the phone rang and it was a man. And I could tell that this was sort of the breadwinner type of gentleman who really didn't want to reach out and ask for help. But I knew on the other side of that phone line to extend an olive branch and say, great call. This is the best thing you could have done. let's get you scheduled and get the necessary paperwork so that we can get you a counseling session and move you on to the next step.
Yes.
And that's what agencies like the HUD approved housing counseling agencies I happen to work for do.
Yes.
They're out there and they're available, and people need to know that help is available.
They do.
And then you talked on a little bit about financial literacy.
Absolutely.
And decision making when it comes to maintaining. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the importance of that?
On the other end of that phone is you're talking to one gentleman, but that represents a family,
Absolutely.
a community,
Come on.
a neighborhood, and then the whole region. So no one wins when a home is foreclosed on in that community. Values are driven down. Someone else moves in. The homes are vacant. That can create a problem with blight. So we want to continue just to reach out and say, I know that this may not be the easiest call for you, but I'm here to help. We learn our habits about spending money from our family, our community, and sometimes it can be generational, and oftentimes it is, and we want to make sure that we set that up to have a child set up for success.
That's excellent. And there are so many curriculums that are so readily available for the consumer that we could say educate yourself, make yourself ready, whether you partner with an agency to do it or if you do it on your own. Get involved with hands-on banking. Go to FDIC and find out about Money Smart.
That's right.
Call up Dave Ramsey and find out about Financial Peace University.
Yes.
I think that money management and spending habits is probably so not talked about in the educational system, but one of the most important things for applicable, successful living.
Yes.
So
for sure.
it's great to encourage people to pay attention to your money.
Yes.
Educate yourself about your money.
For sure.
And it brings a lot of peace of mind
Definitely.
in so many ways. So thank you for that encouragement. Do you have any other encouraging words for the viewers today?
I think that, financial literacy is critical for the entire family. I think that, educating yourself on, what is most likely going to be the largest purchase that you're going to make, I think that that's a critical component that you definitely want to add to, to that process, and kind of setting the expectation and knowing where you want to be and how the process is going to play out is very critical.
And these days we do what you call financial coaching.
Yes.
We used to look at someone and say, here's your budget. This is how you should work with your money. And these days, I think that people have become a little wiser and understand that people have different personalities.
Yes.
And that money's going to take shape in different ways. So you can actually get a financial coach, someone that works with you and your personality to obtain that desired result monetarily speaking. A financial coach can get in there and take two personalities and make sense out of both of them, or take either personality and help them find middle ground to find that financial success. So thank God for hands-on banking and Money Smart and Peace University and everything else that's out there, and there's a lot. So we want people to be financially literate. We want them to be successful in housing retention, and actually also very successful in purchasing, and making those good decisions based on money management.
We meet people where they are. We'll go to schools. We'll partner with agencies such as yourself and go to churches. And we'll do a vast number of different things to try to get the word out and share that information as widely and as broadly as we can. So money doesn't necessarily have to be such a taboo subject. It can be something that can be right there. We can all understand and be on the same page, because ultimately we'll need to move forward together.
I was recently in Savannah, Georgia, and a team of Wells Fargo folks were counseling the nonprofit agencies about a new product that you have called Your First Mortgage. Can you tell us about that and how it will benefit the consumer?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a great program, and just kind of to touch on some of the things that we spoke about earlier in our conversation, how important we feel it is that homeowners are educated, through a housing counseling agency or financial coaching before the home buying process. So what we've created was a new product that offers an incentive for homeowners to take a financial or home buyer education class, and that will give them a discount on their interest rate. So we're really hoping that will drive more customers to getting that education and then further, helping sustain them in home ownership.
And that's really important, Robert. And it's also important to know from the consumer's perspective that reduced interest rate equals a lower payment.
Absolutely.
And it's a basic knowledge for home purchasing 101. But when I was purchasing a house, that was not forefront in my thinking.
No.
So it just centers on how important homebuyer education is and financial literacy is. So
It is.
the fact that you're sitting here and talking to us today speaks the heart of the company that you serve. So thank you for serving the community in the way that you do, and thank you for being so wonderfully articulate and encouraging our consumers.
Thank you. Thank you very
And
much.
thank you for being with us on America's Homefront. Well, thank you for joining us on today's America's Homefront, where home truly is where the heart is. Join us again for more motivation, for more inspiration, and great education on how you can live a better life. See you next time on America's Homefront.
Hi, this is Gary Cross. We hope you're enjoying the show, America's Homefront. The folks behind the scene really go out of their way to bring you quality programming. And so, for any amount of donation, we'd love to send you a copy of our book, Life Works: How to Have Victory in Your Personal, Professional, and Spiritual Journey. Continue watching the show, and we'll continue bringing you quality programming.